Namaste. We start with our Shanti Mantra. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhanatu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tatsat. So, last class we discussed what is called as mumukshutva, the desire for liberation. Evolves and becomes a mature, instead of being just a blind seeking of liberation and the restlessness, it becomes a mature seeking of knowledge. Like that we continue. Right. Now, when we were looking at the sadhana chatushtaya, what is that sadhana chatushtaya? The fourfold qualification. Fourfold qualification for knowledge. Right. So we saw that. In that we have discussed about, especially during the discussion on Viveka and Vairagya, we discussed about Karma Yoga. So this Karma Yoga is absolutely essential step in preparing us both emotionally, intellectually, and at the ego level, to prepare us in all levels of functioning and in every aspect of the mind and the intellect, to be available for knowledge, to be ready for knowledge, to be cognitively ready for knowledge, to be perceptually ready for knowledge, to be able to receive the knowledge. In order for the knowledge to work on us, we need to have that quality of mind that is required for knowledge, which is called Chitta Shuddhi. Right? Chitta Shuddhi has different aspects to it, and that is what we are seeing in the Sadhana Chatushtaya. This whole Sadhana Chatushtaya, the fourfold qualification for liberation when we were talking about, can be summarized into a single word called Chitta Shuddhi. Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshutva, Samadhi, Shakta, Sampatti together can be called as Chitta Shuddhi. This is just one word, which is basically Sadhana Chatushtaya. Right. So now, Karma Yoga is one of the highly misunderstood, and I would say to some extent even abused concept when it comes to the popular spirituality. So when it comes to the popular spirituality, not in places of learning, proper places of learning, where the teaching is given according to the sampradaya with the commentaries and with proper shrotriyas teaching us, not there, but in the popular widespread consumption, this popular paperback spirituality, we say, this karma yoga as a concept is not treated in a very, I would say, it's not treated in a very intelligent way. And also it is used like a excuse for what we call as voluntary compulsory service. So where people are told to do, you think, no, free service, doing service to the society. This is one of the interesting interpretations. I don't know how they arrived at it. Karma Yoga, liberation through selfless service, which is, I don't know how they arrived at this. Not, I mean, if you see Bhagavad Gita, which is the absolutely fundamental text for Karma Yoga, that there is no mention of, free selfless service that will liberate you. There are four parts for liberation. The way of knowledge, the way of selfless action. The way of selfless action, yes, we can use that expression, selfless action. But I will explain it. As we are exploring the concept of Karma Yoga, we will understand what is this selfless action. Is it just doing some free service? No, so all the ashrams have this, when you go for yoga camps and all that, you have this karma yoga time where you are going around cleaning the place and doing some seva there. So that is seva. So seva is different from karma yoga. So the seva need not be karma yoga. And your absolutely cutthroat competitive business could be karma yoga. So karma yoga, what is karma yoga? That is what we are going to discuss today. This karma yoga is absolutely essential for preparing our mind and making it arrive at the point of chitta shuddhi, which is basically a readiness for the knowledge in the form of sadhana chatushraya, the fourfold qualification that we have been discussing all these days. So karma yoga can be defined as performing the to be done action, doing the to be done action, the duty, doing one's duty with an attitude of yoga. Doing one's duty in an attitude of yoga is karma yoga. Doing karma with yoga buddhi. That is the definition of karma yoga. So when this is very important, because before we go into the practice and see how to make it our living reality, it is important that we are actually trying to live up to the real concept, not some some fancy idea that we pick up from somewhere, and then we spend a lot of time and we see that it is not working, it is not giving the desired result. How come, I spent 25 years doing selfless service to the society? Why am I not enlightened? Why I am not able to understand anything? These questions can come. So, one can be doing, there is a, if you see in nature, for example, you see in nature, all the animals and birds, they're all doing the job. The plants, all the species is doing the job. They don't have the dharma is kind of programmed into them. No, they don't have a choice over action. The inherent nature pushes them to do certain things, and there is no concept of dharma and dharma. So the concept of dharma and dharma is there only for a human being because of a key factor called kartrutva buddhi, the egoistic assumption or the egoistic way of seeing oneself as the doer. I am doing it, and ownership over the result. I need credit for this. I am the one who is supposed to enjoy this. The result of this action belongs to me. I have earned this, right? I am responsible for this. I have earned this. So the result of action. Considering oneself as the karta, the doer, and the owner, the bhokta, the result of the action, the one who enjoys the result of action, one who chooses an action for the sake of arriving at a result. And while doing, one considers oneself as the doer. We're telling what is the problem. This is natural. This is how it should be. We will come to that. It is not. The whole point of karma yoga, yoga buddhi, is understanding that I, the self, I, the conscious principle, I as the conscious principle, I am not the doer. This is the wisdom. This is the viveka. But this is not, this wisdom is not tangible for most people. So even especially as a beginner, because karma yoga is meant for a beginner. From a beginner level, we are starting. So it is meant for preparing one for knowledge. So we cannot put the cart before the horse and say, ask the person to apply the knowledge that is supposed to come as a result of karma yoga. So after practicing karma yoga, you are supposed to arrive at viveka. And I cannot, quote Viveka and telling, use the Viveka in your action and then you become a Karma Yogi. It is not possible because Viveka is not operating. That's exactly why we need Karma Yoga. Right? So this is something like, okay, you are not the agent. So you cannot tell yourself, okay, I'm not the agent, I'm not the agent. So when you're telling I'm not the agent, you are the one who is telling that in the intellect. So I am not the doer. If I tell myself I am not the doer, I am actually doing the action of repeating that idea to myself. So that is doership. I say, did I tell myself I am not the doer? Yeah, I only told myself I am not the doer. So me telling myself is mental action. So I am being the doer by telling myself I am not the doer. Now you get that? So it's like a catch-22 situation. So karma yoga is a very intriguing thing, though it is a practice meant for everybody, for preparing a person for jnana. It is a very intriguing thing because it has to be taken step by step. So the karma yoga as a practice, what it is, doing action with yoga buddhi. Good. Now this yoga buddhi, what is this yoga buddhi? Cultivating the yoga buddhi, why should we cultivate the yoga buddhi? And what are the stages of development in this yoga buddhi that is backing up your actions? So that is what we are going to discuss. So this we need to understand and see where we stand. So when we understand the karma yoga, the yoga buddhi, the cultivation of yoga buddhi that backs our actions, our everyday actions, our life, different aspects of our life, our active life. When we understand how we back up our life with yoga buddhi, how we are living our life being established in yoga buddhi, how we are performing our duties being established in yoga buddhi, while we are attempting that, we see how this yoga buddhi evolves. No, it evolves into a more and more sattvic nature, and as the tamas and the rajas, as the two qualities of tamoguna and rajoguna, as they keep reducing during the course of our growth, inner growth, and as the mind clears, as the intellect clears, this yoga buddhi gets better and better, and we will see how it transforms step by step. Now, uh, essential requirement for us to be a karmi, a person who is an active person, to become a karma yogi. So an active person becomes a karma yogi. Instead of just doing things, we are doing things with a yogic attitude. So why should we do that? So that has to be very clear. Because when we discussed, when I mentioned karma yoga, we mentioned it in the context of vairagya and mumukshutva. So karma yoga is basically nivritti dharma. It is not pravritti dharma. It is nivritti dharma. Nivritti dharma in the sense, it is a progressive growth of inner renunciation. Karma yoga is a person inner renunciation keeps growing. So it is a growth in renunciation. So karma yoga is basically a process of deeper and deeper levels of abidance in the quality of renunciation inside us. So one gradually becomes a renunciant inside. May not be in your science, but while one lives one's life according to one's duty and according to one's social, family position, and according to one's stage in life, as one is living the life, as one is discharging the everyday duties, the person is constantly growing inside in renunciation. The quality of renunciation is growing inside a person. So that is the whole purpose of karma yoga, because only by renunciation moksha or the self is attained. It is possible to understand the self. It is possible to it is possible to actualize the self knowledge, to live the self knowledge, to awaken to the self knowledge. It is possible for complete removal of ignorance through the upadesha. Only when one has at least a certain a critical level of renunciation, which is accompanied by discrimination. So only with that it is possible. Tyage naike amrito manasko. Tyaga means renunciation. Renunciation of what? So that is where karma yoga comes. So renunciation of the things, the external renunciation is there. Like you are not, you are leaving your family, you are living alone, living as a sannyasi, taking sannyasa diksha. This is one kind of is external renunciation. It is there. Now, is that alone enough? That is a huge discussion in Bhagavad Gita. When you go through the Bhagavad Gita class, you will of course come through that. It's a huge discussion in Bhagavad Gita. It's a very clearly mentioned that external renunciation, when it is not accompanied by internal renunciation, is trouble. At the same time, internal renunciation, even without the external signs of renunciation, is comparatively better. If one is not renounced the world, one is living a very active life, but has developed renunciation inside at the cognitive level, at the level of understanding, at the level of ego. One has developed the quality of renunciation. It is better than only renouncing symbolically, but the mind has not arrived at renunciation. That is a problem. While this is even better, is better than that. If you compare between external sannyasa without internal sannyasa and internal sannyasa without external sannyasa, one is supposed to prefer. This is preferable. This is actually less hypocritic, and it is going to take a person closer to the truth. This is going to lead a person towards jnana. So that is the discussion there. So when it comes to karma yoga, yoga buddhi, that is the key word. Doing karma with yoga buddhi. Now, this yoga buddhi, how do we develop yoga buddhi? What is this yoga buddhi? So that becomes the key point in karma yoga. Then we also have choice over action, right? So in karma yoga, there are two words, karma, yoga. Now, before we discuss karma, it is very important to discuss yoga, because when we are discussing karma, then we have to go into dharma, adharma, karma, vikarma, karma, all that. So the allowed, the righteous action, unrighteous action, what is dharmic, what is adharmic, what one is supposed to do, not supposed to do. So that is an entire topic of Dharma Shastra, which is not the goal here. And there are other dimensions to it. There is a religious dimension to it. There is a normal, everyday, common dimension to it. There is Vishesha Dharma, Samanya Dharma, etc. So it's a very profound topic. But the key point is yoga buddhi. Why a person goes into adharma? An action can be a righteous action or an unrighteous action. Now, if we look at all the unrighteous adharmic actions, even at the common sense level, very simple. Everybody knows, even a child knows it's not supposed to steal. Even a dog knows, the dog, trained dogs have sense of right and wrong. If they do something, in the house, the dog looks very guilty. So it's a very, at the common sense level, we all have a sense of right and wrong, appropriate and inappropriate. That's what generates that kind of guilt in us, right? Unless one is a psychopath, probably most of the persons, they have this, a basic sense of righteousness. What, in spite of knowing what is not okay, what is it that which forces a person to choose the unrighteous course of action over the righteous course of action? What is it? What is that? If we ask that, like in Mahabharata, the famous dialogue, right? Duryodhana says, I know what is dharma. I'm not able to do it. I know what is adharma. I'm not able to stop myself from doing it. Very famous dialogue. Right? So it's a statement of Duryodhana. So how does a person end up like this? A person ends up like this because of what is called as, the term is kamakarataha, the one who does action propelled by desire, personalized desire, the one who is propelled solely, remember, the sole motivation for action is grabbing at pleasure and avoiding displeasure, the pleasure principle, what we call as the rat brain, what we call as, the limbic system, they say. So the constantly deciding, the force that makes us decide whether to do something or not is personal gratification. When that alone becomes the motivating factor for action, you may say, that is being natural. The problem is, it's not just natural. The problem with a human being is, when a dog or when a cat or when some other animal or a bird, when it follows its instinct, it stops there and it is instinctively programmed to not cross a line. If you see unless in a laboratory setting we are messing up with the natural order. There was this experiment they did with the rat. So they did this experiment. The rat was put in a cage, and the cage had two levers. one lever, if it presses one lever, it will drop food. If the rat presses another lever, the scientist has put some electrodes inside the rat's brain. If the rat presses the other lever, it will give that sexual excitement. It will give that sexual pleasure. Okay? It will activate that circuit in the rat's brain that will give sexual pleasure. Right? So this is the gratification, pleasure. The pleasure principle that gets activated. Now they found out. Now somehow over a period of time, this rat learned which lever is for what. You know? After a few repetitions, it learned this lever, if I press, it will give me this sensation. So it kept on pressing that lever and forgot to press the lever for food or eat food. And then it led to a kind of a nervous dissipation, and the rat died of malnutrition and dissipation. The rat died. It killed itself doing. No, it sounds very familiar. Most people are like that. Addiction, the power of addiction. If you see every addicted person, it is that it's the rat inside that person, the same rat. It is there. It's called, what they say, the rat brain, the reptilian brain, they say, the limbic system. So, and over that, we have developed layers and layers of functioning intelligence. But the problem is, if you leave a rat in a natural environment, this will not happen. Because the scientists messed up with the rat in its natural order, in a laboratory setting, this happened. In nature, this never happens, right? So in a certain balance, all the forces are in balance. It's called prakrita, nature driven. So we are not entirely prakrita. The problem with a human being is we have intelligence and we have ego and we have ownership and we know how to think for the future, and then we develop an ego based on our experiences. We develop a sense of identity based on our experiences, and we see how, because of this heightened intelligence that is meant for preparing us for moksha, it is the same intelligence when dharma is missing, when we are completely natural. What happens is we start messing up with the nature, and instead of staying natural, we become demonic. The problem is, if a human being continuously indulges from the instinctive brain and makes only pleasure and pain as the, grabbing the pleasure and avoiding pain as the sole motivation of life, self personal gratification, then there are these, they talk about in psychology, this, hierarchy of needs and all that. So different needs, all needs, personal needs, so when you make that as your only motivating principle, no matter what information you feed the person, you feed the person scientific information, you feed the person spiritual information, Veda, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, it says Traigunya Vishaya Veda. It says, it gives you a lot of celestial goals. In the Veda, you say you do this, you go to Swarga, all those things are there. Promised spiritual results are there. Then you have the Kundalini is there. Then we have, there are Hatha yogis. We do they do a practice called Vaji Karanam, where there is an entire cult in the West based on this. It's called, this practice in Ayurveda also discussed. It's called Vaji Karanam. In Tamil, we say Paryangi Yoga. It is learning to prolong your sexual gratification without losing energy. So that is a practice. So this is developed by the Hatha yogis and the tantrics, and they use it for the sake of some mastery. It can be like every other ability, human ability. This can be used in the right way, in the wrong way. So that's another topic. So even when we come into spiritual things like yoga, we come into Vaidika karma everywhere. The motive, when it is totally personal, the personal gratification, when that alone is the motive, it does not take much for a person to slip from dharma to adharma. At least in the sake of a Vaidika, of a person who is following the way of personal gratification. The usually teachings are cross dharma, because it is like an enlightened self-interest, they say, right? So, if given a chance, I will break the rule, traffic rule. I will, go in the wrong lane and somehow reach my destination. I will jump the signal and go. But there is consequences. If I end up getting caught, there's consequences. Because the consequence is there, I understand action and consequence. Because I see that if I am caught, I will be ending up going more late to my office than I would have waited at the signal and gone. Or if I jump the signal, I will get a challan, posted to my house, and then I will have to pay 5,000 rupees, and that is going to cut in the monthly budget, etc., etc. Because of the fear of consequences, the individual follows rules. It's a common order, right? Because of reward and punishment that is there. Basically, the dharma is this reward and punishment. So you are motivated by reward and you are discouraged by punishment. So because of that, you think a little bit. You are smart enough, so you don't want trouble, so you are following the rules. But in the background, our motivation is only personal motivation. Is personal gratification alone is the motivation for action. This makes a person what is called as result oriented. When a person is motivated only by gratification, all our actions become result oriented. The very result oriented person is probably very good in marketing, but in life, if you want to meet your external targets in a marketing job, result orientedness is good. But if we want to meet the inner targets of Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shatka, Sampatti, Samatvam, Samadhi, in all those inner qualities, when we want to meet those inner qualities, when we want to meet the inner targets, result orientedness is counterproductive. So, what Karma Yoga does is the purification we say, right? So, what is this purification? If you just understand in a very simple term that we can relate with, this purification is nothing but this brain and the mind that is constantly driven by reward and punishment. The mind that is driven only by reward and punishment, desire for reward, fear of punishment. So that alone is the motive for action, right? So from there, all the intelligence is working only for that. All our cleverness, our IQ, whatever you say is working within that. It is working. All the intelligence is working to satisfy the circuit of self gratification, personal satisfaction and self gratification, egoistic satisfaction. So the whole intelligence is working as a slave for the master, who is the desire for self gratification. So this is what is happening. Now, instead of this, what happens when a person attains Chitta Shuddhi, this circuit stops. This reward punishment is not the motive anymore. Gradually, the first step is, instead of what is gratifying and avoiding what is not gratifying, pleasure and pain, reward punishment, one starts getting motivated by what is right, what is appropriate according to dharma. So my motive for action is not whether I like it or I don't like it. My motive for action is not whether I will benefit from it or not benefit from it in terms of an external result. My motive for action is it the right thing to do? Is it my duty to do? Am I supposed to do this now or not? Is this what I am supposed to do? What is my duty? What am I supposed to do now? What is my role here? What is the right thing to do at this point, at this place, at this time? In this situation, what is the right thing to do? That alone is the motivation. Oh, this is the right thing to do, but if I do the right thing, I might get a headache. No problem. This is, I will feel very comfortable after that. But if I do that, that is the wrong thing to do. I'm not supposed to do that. Now, the problem comes, what is the standard that is telling me what is right and what is wrong? So there is the problem. So in Karma Yoga, this is the other side of Karma Yoga. So first is when we are developing the Yoga Buddhi, the first transformation is, I am not motivated by result, but I am motivated by what is right. So this is the inner process that's happening. And There is another discipline of aspect of karma yoga, the another aspect of the knowledge that is required for karma yoga. What is right? What is the standard? So here it is the problem again, bridging the gap is this. One of the very popular concepts that we have these days is, do what you feel. So this is a very it's a very important bug that is plaguing, especially New Age spirituality and the popular spirituality and the people who come for yoga and you know, meditation camps, and those who take to they're nice people. They're nice people. But the problem is they all have most of them have a problem with Shraddha. There is no Shraddha. When whatever I have encountered, I see this problem. They don't have a Shraddha honest system. Because I guess it's because most of the systems have failed. They're very nice people. They want to do good. But then what happens is the overall social life is so stressful and it is so adharmic. You see adharma everywhere. The government is adharmic. The authorities are adharmic. Your parents are adharmic. Your teachers are adharmic. Education is a lie. When you have all these things around, it's like because of the Kali Yuga, they as they grow up, the kids as they grow up and during teen when the Rajoguna is very strong, they lose faith in the system. So they become very skeptical about everything. So that's very sad. But somehow we have to grow out of this. Somehow we have to deal with this, and we have to emerge out of this. So this is a huge problem. And before we go into Karma Yoga, one of the first things we need to learn is somehow find a way to adopt a standard of rules and regulations, a standard of discipline, a code of conduct, a standard of discipline and a code of conduct that is coming from a source outside of me. This is absolutely essential. So before we start the practice of developing the Yoga Buddhi, we have to adopt an external authority and we have to learn to bow down to an external authority in terms of conduct. I will go to the level of dilution to say no matter what it is, to begin with, as a practice, it is very important to have that authority outside oneself. So that we have an opportunity to work with this gratification circuit. It's, for example, in Zen, they don't have Dharma Shastra like us. In Zen, they say they have some very set ritual rules. The way they eat the food. If you go to a Zen monastery for a meditation camp, they will have the way of. There is a set procedure of making a tea. There is a set procedure of how you clean your vessel in which you eat, how you prepare to eat, and how you eat. Or and how you walk from one place to another. You have a set of rituals, like a code of conduct for everything, and you just simply do it because that's what you're supposed to do. No thinking about it. They just do it. Where it gives an opportunity to work with the background circuit of likes and dislikes, the preferences, rather Dvesha, we say. So we are able to work, they are able to work with that, and that gives a certain kind of a deep calmness and a stillness, and their awareness awakens to a zone that is not ruled by likes and dislikes. A zone of awareness wakes up in us. We wake up, I will put it like that. We wake up into a zone of awareness, which is not into a zone. We become aware in a zone where we are not affected by likes and dislikes. I still remember when I was very young in a camp, in one spiritual camp. They told us to write all the things that we like, things that we like. Make a list, paper, right? Keep it. Now you finish that, right? Good. Now they said, now put it in the fire. They made a bonfire and they said all the things that you like, now put it in the fire. Good. You left, you renounced it. No. First they said all the things that you dislike. We have the fire, and then they said, okay, write all the things that you dislike. Make a big list of dislike. Then he said, throw it in the fire. Ah, nice. Then they said, now make a list of all the things that you like and that you enjoy. I made the list, and then when I put that in the fire, I still remember the sensation. The when you leave what you don't like, you are left with what you like. It is a certain kind of pleasing feeling. But then when I put that paper written with the list of things that I like also into the fire, a certain kind of opening of the heart. No? In the background, a certain sensation of opening, and a zone that is unaffected by what I like and what I don't like. It was an amazing experience. So then I started investigating. Then I started applying the principle everywhere. So then when I studied the Shastra, at that time I had not studied Shastra much. So when I studied the Shastra, I could see that, wow, this is what it is about. And then when we adopt the same principle in every situation in life, you are constantly in that zone where you are not affected by what you like and what you don't like. There are preferences. You understand that I prefer this and I don't prefer this. But that preference somehow is not driving our action. That preference somehow doesn't become the motive of action. The motive for action comes from a different space, and you are able to enjoy that space where you are unaffected by what you like and what you don't like. It's just there like a suggestion, it doesn't take hold of you. It doesn't take hold of our emotion. It doesn't take hold of our inner space. We are enjoying the inner space in a certain way where we recognize what the mind prefers. Okay, the mind prefers this. My tongue prefers this taste over this taste. My ears prefer this music over that music. You recognize that. But you are still in a space where you are not affected by that. You are not driven by that. You enjoy a space that is unaffected by likes and dislikes. It's a kind of an inner space, an inner space of freedom, an inner space of relaxation and expansion, where you are not touched by all these struggles. Where you are not struggling, a kind of a peaceful zone where we are not struggling. So it is different from gratification. So when I get what I like when a child gets an ice cream, there is a joy, right? So that is a kind of a vritti that is called a bhoga. A bhoga, it's a pleasure. But this peace and happiness is different. It's not pleasure. So it's of a different quality of mind, what we call as sattva. So in the when the mind is in a sattvic state, the kind of peace and the serenity, what we say, the serenity and the peace that we enjoy is of a very different quality than the satisfaction that comes from gratification through an object of desire. Right. So to discover that space. So what happens is we were talking about this external standard, the code of conduct that tells us what to do, what not to do. What is the benchmark for this? The benchmark for this is the Shastra. In the Vedic Dharma, the Dharma Shastras and all that, these are the benchmark. The Vedic Dharma, the Smritis and the Dharma Shastras, they tell us, give us the code of conduct. There is a common dharma, satyam vada dharmam chara and all that is there. Like, don't steal from another person. Don't speak lies, and do not donate what is more than what you don't. When you acquire more wealth than what you need, donate the rest for the social welfare. Things like this. We have a lot of recommendations, and we also say that when you do dhanam, the money is invested, converted into punya that can follow you even after you death. So we have all these recommendations. So we have yajnam, dhanam, tapas, all these injunctions are there. Then there are prohibitions that are there. Do not drink alcohol, etc. Do not eat certain kinds of meat. And if you are going to consume, you consume only within the context of the yajna. Like that, we have rules for everything. And also we have specific rules for according to the lifestyle of each person, according to the birth, according to the jati, according to the varna. So in the varnashrama dharma, according to the ashrama, the stage of life, there is varnashrama dharma which is given. So it is all there. So according to one's social position and according to one's birth, according to one's family situation, each person has to decide for themselves. And first thing is, when we approach Vaidika Dharma, we will have to sanitize our mind out of modern education, out of the Western education that has told us about the Vaidika Dharma. So whatever we have learned, if we have not learned in a very Shastric way, if we have not learned in a traditional school under a traditional teacher properly, it's most probably we are not having the right idea about the Vedic Dharma. So we might be having certain fancy ideas about uh, and a very simple thing. The way the society argues in a very simple things, I don't want somebody to decide what is on my plate. They make everything into an emotional issue. So every little thing is turned into an emotional issue for the sake of TRP. And when we go into that, we tend to get carried away by that, and that starts directing our thinking process. So we will have to sanitize our thinking process from all the acquired false values. There is an excessive false value we have developed for being egoistically comfortable. It's we have become almost incapable of feedback. If somebody tells us you are wrong, we get offended. Now all this taking everything personally, getting offended, so these things we will have to look at that, and we have to work with that first before even we come to Shastra. So we need to arrive at Shastra. When we want to study Shastra, we have to give the benefit of doubt to the Shastra. What they say is, one thing that will be useful here is, they say, Veda Mata. Veda Mata. Veda is like the mother. Now, if you see a mother, I don't know, at least in my generation, people were aware. They used to, in the holiday, the mother or granny, they will have in a big vessel, they will have some rice and some vegetables. Now all the kids will be sitting around. They will put in the hand. They'll be the granny or somebody will be telling the story, and they will put one ball of rice, and on top of that they will keep one vegetable, or if it is a curd rice and one small piece of pickle or something, and then you take it in the hand. They will put in the hand and then you eat. So all the kids will be sitting and listening to the story and eating. It's a very nice experience. We all used to do that in a holiday, but I don't know if that still happens anymore. I guess in villages it still happens. So there, if you see, she gives according to each child. So one child likes spice, one child doesn't like spice. One child likes a certain snack more. One child does not want the side dish. One child cannot eat. One there is one child who is 3 years old, another child who is 9 years old. All of them are sitting in the same circle. So the morsel, the size of the morsel of the food for the 9-year-old will be a little bigger ball, and a bigger piece of vegetable. And for a 3-year-old, it's a small hand. You cannot put a big piece, it will fall down. So for the small child, the mother will give a small ball and a little piece of vegetable. Or, the child doesn't like vegetable, she will cheat the child by putting the vegetable inside the ball. The child cannot see. So the vegetable goes inside. So the mother has to do all kinds of tricks to make sure each child gets what they require. It's a in English they say paternalistic attitude. They say, don't patronize me. This is one thing we hear from all the teenagers. Don't patronize me, but we require pattern. When nobody patronizes you, you feel lost. So what is wrong in patronizing to a certain extent? When a parent patronizes, right? So a Veda, being the source of infinite knowledge, it gives you in the patronizing, in the sense, not in the negative sense, but in a caring sense. The Veda, the Mother Veda, recommends, I would not even gives, it just recommends. It says injunctions and prohibitions. You do this, you don't do this. You can choose. If you do what you are not supposed to do, these are the consequences. If you do what you are supposed to do, these are the consequences. It just gives that. And then we have an entire system, the social structure that helps us to follow this dharma that is given by the Veda and by the Dharma Shastras. So the Veda Mata, the Mother Veda, what she does is she gives recommendations according to the nature of the individual. Okay, you are a very sattvic person. So if you pursue knowledge exclusively, it's better for you. You are Sattvic, you are a Rajasic person, you are a very active, passionate person, you are a very action-oriented person, very vigorous, person with, with a little aggressive, but your motives are noble. So why don't you do that? Take care of administration and protecting the weak and things like that. Oh, you are a person who is given to comfort, but you're smart and you like pleasure and all that, and you would like to, but you would like, you are more driven by gratitude. You are predominantly rajas, but some more tamas. Your the sattva goes. You are rajasic and tamasic, like that. So what happens? Your rajas is predominant, but sattva is third. The second quality is tamas. So what happens? Okay, why don't you do some trade where you can see benefit? So you take care of trade and managing the economy and all that. No? Where you are, you are always looking for profit. What is the need for me there? You will not do anything if you don't have anything for you in it. A trader is a Vaishya, is a person who will, a quality, a natural Vaishya would be someone who is motivated only if he has a benefit in it. A Kshatriya is someone who is ready to kill himself for the sake of a cause. A Brahmana is someone who just wants to understand everything, this knowledge and skills and technology and all that. So a person who is of a very sattvic nature will be naturally devoted to knowledge. We see them in all the societies, right? And a person who is very, valorous, says, okay, this person is very aggressive. But this person has to, and I'll give him a rule. You have to respect the people. Do not hurt the people of knowledge. Always take advice from the people who are devoted to knowledge, and you protect the weak. So the honor, this person is always driven by honor, ego. So it says, your honor is there only if you protect the weak. So by preying upon the weak, you become a bad Kshatriya. A Kshatriya, by protecting the weak and listening to the wise person, then that Kshatriya becomes an asset. So the Mother Veda sees how each person is and how all of them can coexist together. And then you see a person who is very, not very intelligent, but the person is, very strong, is able to do a lot of work, is very enduring, and he is able to, do a hands-on job on so many things. But the person has a little extra tamas. So the problem is, if the person is left to too much comfort, he'll become too lazy. The person cannot think much. So the person should listen to the others and see what that person can do. A tamasic person is better to be a follower and a worker and a hands-on, and we need people for doing hands-on work. So you, for a shudra, that person is called as a shudra, who is like the, who is the basic worker, temperament person, and that person becomes the foundation of the society where he's. Without them, the society cannot exist. All the basic things cannot be done. We cannot walk. We cannot, like they say, it's a quality. From the feet comes the Shudra. Means what? The quality of the feet. What is the nature of the feet is to support the entire body. And so these people who are there, they are grounded. They keep the society grounded. They contribute to the stability of the entire structure. The whole thing is able to function because of these people's contribution. So they tell, okay, you do these kind of actions, and you these are the values for you, and you are permitted certain indulgences. A very sattvic person is told, you cannot drink, you cannot eat onion, you cannot eat garlic, all those rules. And then for a rajasic person, Kshatriya, you have certain set of rules. For a Vaishya, you have a certain set of rules. These rules are meant for minimizing the damage from the personal vice. So every kind of person has a personal vice, right? So the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, when one guna is dominant, it has its own advantages and disadvantages. So the person's inherent prakriti, the prakriti means the nature, the body, the mind, the intellect, the way the person is, the way the person is composed, the composition, the inner composition of the mind body structure of the person, the buddhi of the person, that should become an instrument for growth. That is the capital. My body, my mind, my buddhi is my capital. So how can I optimize my capital of body, mind, and intellect, which I have got in this life as a result of my past karma? I am born with a certain capital, with a certain set of potential, with a certain advantages and disadvantages. I have some things that are more advantageous over others. I have some things where I am more disadvantaged than others. So this is my capital, right? So how do I optimize this capital for my growth, and at the same time, how I can optimally contribute to the society to help in as a contributor for everybody's growth? How everybody can contribute for everybody's growth, and at the same time, how one can optimize the advantages and minimize the damages from the disadvantages. I don't let my disadvantages take over my life. I minimize them from affecting my life, and I use my advantages. I bring forth my advantages, and I let my positive qualities and my whatever is helping me helpful. I try to bring that forth and see how it can direct my life. So this is the fundamental, this is the fundamental approach for individual and collective welfare that is given by the Vaidika Dharma. So in this Vaidika Dharma, like a mother giving what is best for each child because the child doesn't know, right? And the mother understands the child better than the child understands itself until the child grows, of course. So like that, the Vaidika Dharma, the Veda Mata, and the whole Dharma, Dharmic structure that is based on the Vaidika Dharma, it's like a mother that gives the best package for each one according to their own personal qualities of guna and karma. Based on that, it is given. So we have a standard. Now that is the benchmark, and it requires a lot of study and a lot of guidance to actually understand, and a lot of introspection and study and discussions with an expert. A lot of study is required, and a lot of contemplation, introspection is required. A lot of discussions and debates are required in order to arrive at the clarity to some kind of a decent level of clarity about one's own Swadharma based on the Vaidika Dharma, based on the knowledge of the Vaidika Dharma and the Dharma Shastras. To clearly understand one's Swadharma requires study, contemplation, discussion. Swadhyaya is required. So without that, it's not possible. One can do that, but before that, what one can do is create a quality for learning standards in our life. When we go out on the road, you have the traffic rules. When we go out, when we go and stand in a supermarket queue, there is a rule. This is this rule. You can do simple thing. When we finish eating a packet of chips, I can throw the wrapper one more so takes you. I prioritize health over taste. I always prioritize what is the long-term good over short-term good based on an standard. It could be simple social. We can start of experiencing inner freedom from likes and dislikes. Okay, from today, as much as possible, I'm going to use what is right, the best of my knowledge, whatever knowledge I have, whichever age I am in, whichever situation I am in. I may not feel like it, I may feel completely other way around than what is right. What is right will be like on one vague, vague, mild voice, feeble voice. Somebody, this is right. Yeah, who cares? But I feel so strongly. I want to do that. That urge, is there. Just blindly do what that feeble voice says. That's it. What you feel is meaningless. You can write it and put it in the toilet or in the bedroom or everywhere. What I feel is meaningless. That is one very useful thing. I used to tell in many classes, what I feel is meaningless. This is very simple because nowadays everybody wants to do only what they feel. Oh, I don't feel like. I feel like. What are my feeling? My feeling is completely based on my sanskaras. My feeling is completely based on my programming, which is my destruction actually. So what I feel is meaningless. What is my objective standard of what is right? The external the code of conduct that is outside of my inner matrix of knowledge and experience or whatever, not even knowledge and experience, my likes and dislikes. A code of conduct that is totally decided by something outside the realm of my likes and dislikes. I take that as a standard and I go by that in every situation. I see for every aspect of every zone of life, I choose a code of conduct, a standard that is outside of me, and I try to go by that irrespective of what I feel. So that would be the first step in Karma Yoga, where remember there is a statement, one term in philosophy they say, well, I think from Kant, categorical imperative. I do this because this is right, because this needs to be done. Over. There is no more thinking about it. This is right. I know that this is right. The standard says that this is what is the right thing to do. I do it simply because it is right, no matter I benefit from it or I don't benefit from it. So we completely shift the gear of motivation from what I like and don't like. There I completely shift the gear into do what is right and I avoid what is not right, no matter what I feel. So that would be the first practice of actualizing the discipline of Karma Yoga in us, and we will have more discussion on it, and we'll go into more specific gradually, step by step, we will come to the Shastra, and then we will explore Sakamya Karma Yoga, Nishkamya Karma Yoga, etc. But first is what we discussed today. We can start with this step. And if you have any questions and further discussions, please write in your comments or send an email, and I will deal with those and I'll give answers and we'll discuss them in the next class. With that, I will conclude today's discussion. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaaya Purnamevavadishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat.